Thank you all for being here this morning. I am, as Julia mentioned, my name is Brian Gupton. I'm with Dataseam, and I'm going to share for a few minutes with you all about what we did in the state of Kentucky. If you take nothing else away from the presentation, you can remember it as kids, cancer, and computers. So let me give you a little bit of a understanding of the realities when we started. Back in 2004, a lifetime ago for some, we were working with cancer researchers at the University of Louisville's James Graham Brown Cancer Center. The reality is that the state of Kentucky had invested in these researchers to grow new drugs, develop new drugs, as an opportunity to diversify the Kentucky economy. They had been successful in that. They had actually created a drug that was close to 80% effective in stage 3 cancer patients and with no toxic side effects. And that's something that's really important for all of us. And I often, when I speak with folks, I often ask to kind of do the show of hands. How many people in the room now have somebody in their family that's dealing with cancer? Raise your hands.
Maybe, but...
That's right. Unfortunately, in Kentucky, we have some of the highest incidence of cancer in the country. A lot of that has to do with our dietary habits and also tobacco use. So, in fact, our lung cancer rates are 3 times that of the national average. So, our researchers had created this drug. What do we do next with them? The problem was that they had 8 other cancer targets identified, but they could only work on 1 at any given time. When you don't get those to market, you're not creating jobs, you're not saving lives. That was a challenge. The other challenge we had was there was a shortage of workforce to support the research at the University of Louisville. We were living in a post-9/11 reality, and a lot of the students that traditionally supported that type of bio-based research, they weren't coming to the United States, and they surely weren't coming to Kentucky. And aside from that, those types of students often were just here for 4 to 6 years working on their doctorate or postdoctoral work, and they would often go back to wherever they were from, whether it be outside of Kentucky or outside of the United States, to either work for companies that directly competed against efforts that we had going on in Kentucky. So that wasn't a smart move on our part. So what do we do? The other thing is just an awareness piece as it relates to where we are and where we were in Kentucky. What does a want ad for a cancer researcher look like? We see lots of want ads in the paper, but you never really see one for a cancer researcher. Do they need computer skills? Do they need to have a medical degree? Do they need to have a background in chemistry, physics, engineering? What we found was that the answer to that was yes across the board. They needed all of that in a lab environment. So as we move forward, the question is how do we get more cancer research to market, and how do we get more of a workforce to support it? So the solution that we came up with was that. Yeah. I'm not a fan of PowerPoint, so that's my PowerPoint joke for the day. Additionally, so you're not supposed to read that. What we came up with was the grid. And so the grid is a collection of desktop computers, shared workload computing. Basically, the grid is sharing the work of the cancer research across all of the computers that are available. It utilizes the untapped computing horsepower of the workstation, so it doesn't take away from what the user has available for their needs on the front side. And it's the best use of existing assets from the standpoint of when these computers are purchased for a school environment, a university environment, you want to get the most use out of them before the next operating system, the next computer comes out. So, for those of you that are more visually attuned, this is what a grid kind of looks like. So, at the very top is kind of where we sit in Louisville, and then we access the education network just through the Ethernet. And then in each of our schools, we have servers that dole out research projects around the efforts for structure-based drug design, to create new cancer drugs that will kill cancer cells without any toxic side effects. So that's what it kind of looks like. So, challenges and barriers to entry that we had. Just no. These are the things that we were told. That's already been tried. We couldn't do it. Somebody else is already doing it. I don't think you can do it. I don't understand. And then for a lot of the school students that are visiting with us today, unfortunately, adults aren't much better in their communication and language. Just, that's stupid. So grown-ups say that as well. So what did we do? Well, we did it. So what we originally did was we took a small collection of devices as a proof of concept to build this grid and started running research. Started running research on my birthday in May of 2004. And over time, we added schools to that program with their existing computer assets to continue to advance the cancer research at the University of Louisville. And as we continued to grow that research capacity, we had the opportunity to do it some more. The state of Kentucky came to us and said, we like what you're doing. It's innovative. We think that schools could benefit from this, and would you be willing to do that in other districts? And so we did, through a grant from the Economic Development Cabinet and legislative appropriation. Since 2005, we have been building the grid in the coal-producing regions of eastern and western Kentucky. When we started out with the grid, we had 30 machines. We have grown to that in 54 school districts statewide, comprised of approximately 20,000 workstations at our largest point. Some of those machines have aged out, and we're kind of running with about 14,000 computers, Mac computers, sitting in these school systems across the state of Kentucky. That's what that looks like today. So, as you can see, we're actually running research right now, and this is how we are able to see whether or not schools' machines are available for our cancer research. And so when they're green, that means they're ready to go. When they're flashing, that means that research is actually taking place on the grid. And to give you an idea of how much time this grid shaves off of the drug discovery process, if you were to do this type of research on one computer, it would take 300 years. For the amount of computers that we have today, any of our cancer runs tend to take 2 to 3 days for each run. So, it wouldn't make sense to do it on one computer, but with what we have the ability to speed that research to market. The takeaways on this, this has been it's been a marvelous experience for me personally, but also for the organization as a whole. To be able to grow this research and help others is, I never knew this was going to be my life calling, but it's turned out to be a pretty nice thing. And it's something that you can get up and do each day and feel good about it. And I think that as we continue to create, as we continue to innovate, it's important to be able to do that in a way that makes you feel good about the work that you're doing and also about yourself. When we, as I said earlier, to go from being able to shave 300 years off of research and whittle it down to a matter of days is a major deal. The researchers that we work with, when we first started, we were working with 3. And because of the grid, the researchers at the Brown Cancer Center have grown to 50 in 20 different research teams. And the grid's helping them find these answers to cancer. The grid's helping them become more competitive for state and federal and private funding to advance the research. As a part of that, and in growing the workforce, the University of Louisville has developed the Dataseam Scholars Program, because one of the things that we feel it's important is that Kentucky-based students are eventually supporting this research. And we've had 10 scholars a year since 2005, and those folks are going into a variety of STEM-based disciplines and creating opportunities for themselves and their families that would not have been there a generation ago. I'll share one with you. We had a fellow last year who graduated with a master's in chemical engineering from the University of Louisville, and he got a job with Michelin Tire. And instead of, as he said it related to me, he said, "Brian, instead of putting them on, I'm going to be designing them." And he's making, his mother was a school teacher, and he said, and she related to me, she said, he's making in his first year as a chemical engineer what it took me 20 years to do as a school teacher. And he's a great kid, and he's doing things that he never would have thought he'd have a chance to otherwise. So we have a lot of stories like that, but that's the newest one and the freshest one for me to share, and it means a lot. It means a lot to hear those stories, and it means a lot for us to see that happen and see this kid grow, student grow through his college experience. So as it relates to your own creativity, your own innovation, I thought to share a couple of different things with you as I finish up here that were takeaways for me as a part of my own experience in doing Dataseam. Most importantly, believe in yourself. Creating and innovating is a lonely road sometimes, and folks are going to call you crazy along the way, and so you have to believe in yourself as a part of that to get you through it. And additionally, not only believe in yourself, but believe in others. The people that you put around you as a part of the innovation process, the creative process, are going to be some of the most important people in your lives. And the moment that you, as an entrepreneur, as a young creator, as a young innovator, realize that you're not the smartest person in the room, and so you need to go and find lots of smart people to put around you and surround yourself with smart people, people that are smart in things that you're not, that's when success starts happening. And it's a freeing part of the creative process when you share the opportunity with others to create alongside you. And it's liberating, and it allows you to grow and do so much more in your role in the creative process. Be self-reliant. One of the things that's really neat about what we've done with Dataseam is that we did a lot of it on a shoestring early on, using existing workstations in the school districts. No funding, throwing lots of darts at bills, not really sure what was going to happen, but we knew that we were doing the right thing. So it's important to go through that, because those times where you are dealing with things on a shoestring, that gutting it out often provides you inspiration and a lot of enlightenment around whatever it is you're up to. But know when and be okay to ask for help. That part's also good too, because if you're able to get it as far as you can, you have something to share to them, or share with those folks that can help you, And I think that the great thing is in Kentucky, there are a lot of people that are here to help. It makes a difference. I've never seen the amount of help that people provide here in Kentucky anywhere else. Don't give up. It's hard. Creating and innovating is hard. And that's why a lot of folks don't do it. But also know when to give up. This wasn't my first idea, and entrepreneurs often go through a lot of different iterations of ideas before they get to where they find their voice and their calling. But that being said, don't give up. Kentucky needs y'all. I'll leave you with one last takeaway. I think the thing about Kentucky that's most interesting is that we have some general assumptions about where innovation comes from, where it's happening, and who's doing it. And the great thing about Kentucky is that innovation and creativity can happen anywhere, and it does happen everywhere. As Julia mentioned in my introduction, when I think about creativity and innovation, I think about home. And when people hear me say I'm headed to Western Kentucky, they know I'm not headed to Bowling Green. I've got another hour and a half the other side in Princeton, Kentucky, population 7,500. When we first started Dataseam, we started with 30 computers. A grid that's larger than any other grid of its kind on the face of the planet started in a small town with 3 stoplights and 7,500 people, roughly an hour and a half drive from here. And to the point of where it's happening, but also who's doing it, one last thing. We're creating really good jobs and really good opportunities for people in the state of Kentucky. And we hope that it's a generational thing that can occur in Kentucky in a way that industry like this took care of Kentuckians a generation ago, and for many generations. A generation ago, I would have laced these up. Whoops. I would have packed my lunch in this, and I would have gone 1,000 feet underground to dig this, to feed my family, and to put clothes on my back. I know this because this is what my dad did. And these are his boots, and this is his bucket, and that's what he did. We have a tremendous opportunity to not only create jobs for the sons and daughters of coal miners in Kentucky, but lots of opportunities for the other folks as well. You all have picked a wonderful time to be alive in Kentucky because there's lots of innovation and creativity going on that's going to create some wonderful things that's going to take us into the next century. My only hope is that for those of you that are innovating and creating, that are sitting in this room, and those that you work with, that you're successful, that you share, and that you believe. If there's anything that we can do to help, please let us know. Thanks for your time.